Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin, check. You already know. Let's go. Welcome to Golden Blue today, everybody. This is a college football channel. So if you like college football, hit the like and subscribe button. It's that simple. Also, send gear to represent your team and be a part of my background forever. All you have to do is send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. Guys, somebody please explain to me the algorithm that goes into this playoff predictor for ESPN. I was looking over it this morning, and I even listened to sports radio, and I listened to them talk about it and listen to teams in order. I'm like, What goes into this? Some of it does make sense, and I agree with some of it, but some of it absolutely does not make sense. Not at all. So there's 10 teams with the chance to make the playoffs according to ESPN FPI playoff predictor, and it doesn't have North Carolina in there. I think there's a path for North Carolina to get to the playoffs. It's a crazy path, but they have to be on there with like a 1% chance. But they're not on here. 10 teams, not North Carolina, and several teams on here with 2 losses. So right off the bat, I'm scratching my head. Why can't North Carolina be on here with, like a 1% chance of getting to the playoffs? I don't understand that. Especially with some of these 2 losses having a better chance than North Carolina. No, some of these 2 losses have been knocked out. They are not making the playoffs. North Carolina still has an outside shot, but they still have a minute shot. Some of these 2-loss teams, they don't have a shot. So why they're in here and North Carolina's not, blows my mind. So let me go through this 1 through 10. We'll start off with number 1. The team with the highest chance of making the playoffs, of course, Georgia. They're 10-0. Remaining games at Kentucky, Georgia Tech, and then LSU in the SEC title game. Georgia has a 97% chance of making the playoffs. I agree with that. In fact, I would probably put Georgia at 100%. Number 1, I definitely think they're going to beat LSU. But number 2, even if they lost to LSU, I don't think the playoff committee would keep them out of the playoffs. I don't think that they would knock them down below number 4. Maybe down to number 4, maybe down to number 3, depending on how bad they get beat. I don't know. But I don't think the playoff committee would knock Georgia down past the number 4 spot. So I would actually have Georgia at 100%. I'm being serious. I would have them at 100%. And no, I don't necessarily think that Georgia is the best team in the nation. I'm going by where they're ranked now, who they have left on their schedule, and if they were to lose the game, the SEC championship game, who would knock them out that's below them? Nobody. Georgia's going to be in the playoffs no matter what, even if they lost the SEC championship game. That's a fact. The next team is Ohio State. They're also 10-0. They have an 89% chance to get the playoffs according to ESPN. Remaining games at Maryland, number 3 Michigan, that's the big one, and then the Big Ten title game. This comes down to that Michigan game. Ohio State is favored in that game. Of course, if they beat Michigan, everybody thinks they're going to win the Big Ten title, including myself. I'm good with Ohio State at number 2 and 89%. I'm good with that. Here's where I start scratching my head. Number 3 is Michigan. Right now, Michigan is 10-0, right? They have a 65% chance of making the playoffs. Remaining games, Illinois at number 2, Ohio State. Michigan is not favored. Most people, including myself, think that Michigan will lose that game. But if they were to win that game, then the Big Ten title, and they're in. If they go undefeated, they're in no matter what. But that road game to Ohio State, everybody thinks that they're going to lose. And if they lose that game, they're not making the playoffs. They should not have a 65% chance to make the playoffs. Maybe like 40 or 45% just to factor in that they're underdogs at Ohio State. But still, they have a chance to beat Ohio State. And if that happens, then they get to the playoffs because they're going to win the Big Ten title. But if they lose to Ohio State, like most people think they will, they're not getting into the playoffs. 65% should not be the number for Michigan. It should be more like 45%, maybe 50%. Maybe 50%. I would be okay with 50%. They could beat Ohio State, even though we all think that they're not going to. But 65%, come on. It doesn't make sense. The next team, Tennessee, 9-1, 60% chance. Remaining games at South Carolina and at Vanderbilt. I would have Tennessee's chances above Michigan's. I think Tennessee gets in. In fact, I might have their chances above Ohio State's because Ohio State still has at Maryland and number 3 Michigan. I think they will win both of those games and win the Big Ten title, but Tennessee's schedule is so easy the rest of the way. I do think Tennessee will win out, and I do think Tennessee makes the playoffs. So I think Tennessee should actually be higher than Ohio State based on how much the playoff committee loves them. There would have to be some crazy scenario. I don't see not one scenario that would keep Tennessee out. I really don't. I don't see one single scenario that would keep Tennessee out. I think Tennessee is as close to a lock as you can get without actually being a lock. Georgia's a lock. Tennessee is as close to a lock as you can get without actually being a lock. So I would have Tennessee at number 2. The next team, number 5, TCU. They're undefeated 10-0. 34% chance. That is a big drop-off. They do not have faith in TCU. Remaining games at Baylor, then Iowa State, then the Big 12 title game. That's what drops their chances. Remaining regular schedule doesn't look bad, but they will have to beat a team that they've already beaten that maybe gave them troubles in the past game and they barely escaped. They'll have to beat them again. So I agree with this. I'm okay with that. I think TCU does have a chance to finish undefeated, but man, that is a tall order. And we're not used to seeing TCU in this type of position. You have to start thinking about the mental thing. Will the moment get too big? Will the pressure be too much? All that adds up, and it could add up to a loss for TCU. I'm okay with that. Number 6 is Clemson, 9-1, 25%. Remaining schedule, Miami Hurricanes, South Carolina, and then North Carolina in the ACC title. I think Clemson's going to win out. So I think their chances should at least be 50%. I think they should be number 4 or number 5 because they should have a better chance than the loser of Ohio State, Michigan for sure. And I would give them a better chance than TCU because TCU has a taller order. Clemson can most certainly win out. I think the chances of Clemson winning out much higher than the chances of TCU winning out. Therefore, I would give the chances of Clemson making the playoffs a higher percentage than the chances of TCU making the playoffs. So I disagree with that as well. The next team is Alabama at number 7. What? They are 8-2. They have a 13% chance of making the playoffs. Remaining games, FCS, Austin Peay, and Auburn. Yes, they will win out, but they're not making the SEC championship game. They should not be at number 7 as far as chances to make the playoffs. They have a 0% chance of making the playoffs. Alabama's not making the playoffs. Why are they on this list? It doesn't make any sense. I have a huge problem with Alabama being at number 7 or being on this list at all. In fact, I would rather North Carolina be on this list than Alabama because in my opinion, I would say that North Carolina has a better chance of making the playoffs than Alabama. Not saying they will and not saying that their chances are good. It's very minute, but Alabama's is 0. Number 8 is USC at 9-1, 7% chance. I'm actually good with that. Their remaining schedule at number 16 UCLA, number 18 Notre Dame, and then of course the Pac-12 title. Now if they win out, they're going to make it, but the chances of them winning out, not very high. I'm okay with that. Next team, LSU, 8-2, 5% chance of getting to the playoffs. Remaining schedule, UAB at Texas A&M, and then Georgia in the SEC title. I do think Georgia beats LSU in the SEC title, but at least LSU has a chance if they win out. LSU should most certainly be higher than Alabama on this list. This doesn't make any sense. LSU beat Alabama. What are they thinking? This makes absolutely no sense. Whoever made this list doesn't know what they're talking about. You guys have gone insane. Alabama should not be on this list. LSU should most certainly be above Alabama if you still want to stick them on this list. And I would swap out Alabama for North Carolina because as minute of a chance that North Carolina has of making the playoffs, at least it's a chance. For Alabama, it's 0. And then finally the last team, Utah, 8-2, 4% chance of making the playoffs. What? Remaining schedule, at number 12, Oregon, at Colorado, and then the Pac-12 title. Even if they win out, Utah's not making the playoffs. So once again, I would swap Utah with North Carolina as well. This makes absolutely no sense. What algorithm came up with this? What freaking algorithm came up with this? If Utah wins out, even if they win the Pac-12 title, that's a 2-loss Utah. 2-loss Utah. How in the world would Utah make the top 4? I know maybe there's a few scenarios out there, but my gosh, no, they're not making it. I don't see it happening. I would say North Carolina has a higher chance because North Carolina can win out with 1 loss. Yes, everybody thinks that Clemson's going to beat North Carolina, but there's that chance where they could upset Clemson. So this was not well thought out. I don't agree with this at all, and it's crazy. So here would be my list of chances for teams to get into the playoffs. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Tennessee. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Clemson, based on their schedule. Number 5, TCU. Number 6, Michigan, because I do think they're going to lose to Ohio State. Number 7, USC. Number 8, LSU. number 9, North Carolina, and number 10, Utah. Yes, I do think that there's a better chance of LSU winning out and beating Georgia and getting to the playoffs than North Carolina winning out and they get to the playoffs. But I still have North Carolina with a small chance to make the playoffs. Y'all let me know in the comments section, do you actually agree with the playoff prediction rankings by ESPN? And if not, how would you rank them? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.